let's start with the team that's currently third in the Premier League table, guys, which is Nottingham Forest, who, by all accounts, had a rubbish weekend, losing 1-0 to Everton in dramatic late fashion as well. So let's have a look at Forest's results, look at their running, look at their likelihood of staying in the top five. I'll start with you, Myles. What did you make of the game, first of all? A lot of criticism from Forest fans about Nuno's setup and about them being too defensive. Obviously, Elanga didn't start, which I think was a mistake, and it looked like they were trying to just, I don't know, contain for a while and then hit on the break, and it just never came, did it?
Yeah, it was an odd way to kind of face this Everton side. I think if you were playing a Sean Dyche side, you never would have done that. And I don't think they really anticipated what a David Moyes Everton could do to break them down. And they didn't offer enough going forward to kind of put the pressure on them. And you're right, not starting Elanga in the kind of form he's been in and the pace that offers you in behind Everton's fullbacks, who aren't necessarily the defensive stability that they need, that could have been a really good avenue to explore. So it'll be a really frustrating result for them. And looking at their recent form in the league, as we will, it adds to the inconsistency. So it would definitely be frustrating for Forest fans that this isn't somewhere that they wouldn't have wanted to drop points in this fixture, really. A home tie against a side that, yes, they are on the up. And actually, if you look at Everton's form since Moyes come in, I think they're fifth in the league in a form table, which is crazy. But it is still a side that we know can be got at. So yeah, frustrating one.
Yeah, it was a game where I think looked like nothing was going to happen for Forest, did it, Dave, really? And that's the frustrating thing, because they can hurt teams and you expected them to do something. Everton, to their credit, contained really well and took their opportunities and actually were on the front foot for large periods, weren't they? And they deserved their goal, I think it's fair to say. Do you think Forest fans are right, first of all, to be critical of Nuno for this result and the setup for the game against a team that was in the bottom half of the league, but also concerned for their Champions League place at this point?
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I think we've seen a lot of teams, especially over the last few weeks, struggle against Everton. We've seen Arsenal drop points. We've seen, obviously, United struggle against them as well. Although it's not difficult to be honest, should be being in teams like Man United. Yeah, I think the way they set up, it actually proved quite difficult for Forest, I think, in that 4-4-1-1 formation. They kind of prioritised a low block, and they had the likes of Gay and Decore really pressing high in those areas where they were struggling to get through those passing lanes, Forest, where they normally do find a lot of joy, I think, through Gibbs White and Hudson-Odoi. In those wide areas, you looked at Mikolenko, both fullbacks actually, kind of playing quite narrow, so they were struggling to get on those overlaps and find space in behind like they normally do Forest. If you look at what they created, it's not a great deal of note. I think their XG was 0.67, their season average is about 1.5, so it says a lot. I mean, if you look at the game in the whole, it's largely dominated by controversial VAR call, or no VAR calls, decisions that are very much sort of on the edge. I think you look at obviously the Beto one for Everton, and then I just think you could have had two penalties in there, one for Everton, maybe one or two for Forest. But again, I think it was decided by VAR, potentially just sitting on the fence. Referees sitting on the fence, and again, it's these decisions are deciding games.
Yeah, big games they've lost now in a row, Myles. Obviously against Aston Villa, which I didn't feel like must win at the time, but it's looking more and more like it when you look ahead at the fixtures for Forest. And obviously a game against Everton, which maybe a month or so ago, you probably would have had them down to win this quite comfortably, considering their attacking firepower. But now the road ahead looks really tough for Forest, doesn't it? Is this something that you think they can turn around? Because we know they've got it in them. Looking ahead at the next couple of fixtures to begin with, can they get back on a good footing again? They've got the FA Cup in there too. So there's a lot on their plate right now, isn't there?
Yeah, it's frustrating for Forest because it felt like for the longest time they weren't in the conversation. They'd secured it. It was done, really. I mean, Forest fans won't have thought that. They'll always be realistic about their side. But as a neutral looking, you thought that 4th and 5th were up for grabs. And it does now feel like 3rd is up for grabs. I mean, Forest are 3 points ahead of Villa, and Villa are 7th. So that's a frustrating position for Forest to find themselves in when you think about how much they were blowing teams away. And they need to get back to that quite quickly. I mean, they've got a great fixture coming next. They go and play Spurs. So they have to win that. They absolutely have to win that, because then Brentford come to the City ground after that. And Brentford are doing so well away from home at the moment. I mean, they've just taken a point against Arsenal, and if Forest drop points in that game, then it really does open the conversation up again for them. And the FA Cup run is such a magic thing for them, but it does feel like maybe they could have just done with one area of focus. And if they don't get top 4 or top 5 sealed, it will feel like such a loss at this stage. It wouldn't have 4 weeks ago, but now you're so close. And there really is such fine margins in it that these will be the games that they rue. I mean, if they'd beaten Villa last week, we're talking about, they've done it. They're third. They've sorted it. There's no way. Now, all of a sudden, 4 teams competing with them now for that space. That's hard. That's hard.
I can't tell whether it's a blessing or a curse for their next fixtures, up until the last game at least, to be against teams that aren't also involved in this Champions League race. You know, they're teams with relatively little to play for. So you mentioned, obviously, Spurs next. They've got Brentford, then Palace, then Leicester, then West Ham, and then finally Chelsea on the last day, which could be huge. It could be a complete write-off. We don't know yet. And I don't know if it's actually more valuable to be playing the teams around them and start taking points off them in the process or not. What do you think, Dave? Are you thinking that those teams in the next run of fixtures up until the final day are winnable because that potentially they are not necessarily teams that are fighting for anything? Or do you think that actually perhaps there's no pressure there for them, so they can just, go at Forest and do what Everton did, essentially?
You could say that about a lot of teams in this league, though, couldn't you, really? It almost feels like the season's drawing out to like a massively underwhelming close, if we're being honest, for quite a few teams. We mentioned now a couple of matches. I thought the Liverpool game today, even though Liverpool were looking to win the title, felt like a testimonial at times. It was just so slow in pace. So, I don't know if it will be a lack of experience that might cost them going towards this. If they got any form of Europe, that'd be a massive success for Forest, and let's hope they don't fall off, massively. It's there are a few difficult games left, notably one at Palace and at West Ham away. I think there'll be 2 difficult away games. You'd expect them to beat Spurs next. I mean, the pressure is on, isn't it, really? This is a massively high-pressure game because they're expected to go there and beat them. Because if you look at Tottenham at the minute, we've been saying all season we don't know how Postecoglou is still in charge at the helm, but somehow
they'll be coming off the back of Europe as well, Spurs, won't they?
So it's the good thing is obviously teams around them are dropping points as well.